I want to bring in Gabby Orr, who joins me now from Arlington, Virginia. She's a White House reporter for Politico. So, Gabby, explain to us, what exactly are these community centers and how will they really be helping the president's reelection campaign?
Well, the president's reelection campaign has essentially created spaces where they will have paid staff and volunteers primarily focused on meeting with Black voters, courting them, educating them, in their words, on the president's accomplishments and all that the Trump administration has done. And this is all part of a growing effort in the Trump campaign to boost the president's support among the African American community. He gained 8% of their support in 2016, and they think that if they can just grow that number by 2 to 3 percentage points and get it into the low teens, that would actually help him on the margins in a number of swing states.
It's so interesting because it sounds like 2 to 3%. That doesn't seem like a whole lot of movement that they need. We know they're going to open up 15 offices across the country, 7 of which will actually be in key battleground states. President Trump, as you mentioned, sort of got 8% of the African American vote in 2016. I'm thinking, though, Gabby, what impact do you think this will have on the campaign, and what do they expect from this initiative?
Well, the impact so far is unknown because these right now are sort of just an idea. They're still signing leases. I spoke with a number of campaign officials yesterday who said that they're planning to roll out these spaces in the coming weeks, but that they don't actually have any that have been launched in brick and mortar places quite yet. But a number of the states that you mentioned, they'll be opening offices in Jacksonville, Florida, Tallahassee, Detroit, North Carolina, both in suburban and metropolitan areas where they're really looking to target the African American community, to educate voters, to basically talk to them about the economic impact of the Trump administration's agenda on their communities. And they hope that by having those conversations, they can bring some of them into the fold. But of course, if you look at the president's approval numbers among Black Americans, it's difficult to see a path forward, a way that they could actually make inroads just by talking about the economy or talking about the Trump administration's agenda. They have been doing that for several years now, and yet there hasn't been much movement in the president's approval rating with Black Americans, most of whom tend to view him as racist.
You know, Gabby, the Trump campaign is going to sell merchandise with the word woke embroidered across it. Why woke? What was behind this decision?
It's a peculiar choice. I actually asked a Trump administration official yesterday, what does this mean? What does the word woke mean in the context of the culture that you guys are trying to foster at these community spaces for African Americans? And this person essentially said, ask a Black person. We think that it means that this is countercultural, that Republicans would even be targeting the African American community is in fact woke itself. But that's kind of a vague response. And, they said that in part it is in jest, that they know that this is a term that is often used by progressives, by liberal communities, and so they're trying to essentially co-opt it and use it in their own context. But the Trump campaign didn't really have a clear answer as to why some of the campaign literature and some of the swag, if you will, that they'll be handing out at these spaces is embroidered with that term.
So fascinating, such a fascinating story, and so interesting that they realize that by getting the African American vote and some momentum there, it can make a real big difference in their reelection campaign. Gabby, thank you so much for joining us from Politico.